Hi, my name's Sasha Moore, and I'm thrilled that we get to now launch the first of the 2025 Ignite webinar and podcast series. So, when I was giving thought to what we were going to be talking about next, I really was reflecting of how I wanted 2025 to look like. And it's not from a place of New Year's resolutions or anything like that. Of course, I'm sure they had their time and their place, but for me, it was more about quantifying how I wanted 25 to look like. And I realized that it was important for me to do so because a lot of the time I was being asked the question is, what's 2025 looking for you? And my response was great. And I felt like the term great was in a few different contexts. One big. So I've hit the ground running, as I'm sure a lot of you have, which is a little unexpected for this time of year. It's been good, but it's still been quite confronting to be this at this velocity this early on, which can be as exciting and challenging as it is a bit daunting. So when I thought about great, I thought, you know what? I embrace great in terms of that amplification of and that pace. But I also wanted to work out what great meant for me in a more altruistic capacity. And so I started to look into the various terms and versions and associations of what greatness actually is defined as. And it was actually really interesting. The more I started to look into it, the more I realized that the notion of great really changes quite substantially depending on sort of what lens you're applying to it. So you've got the personal greatness, which is very much that internal pursuit piece, living by one's values, determining one's values, working out, your value set and so on and so forth, and how you are going to be more aligned perhaps to yourself in 25. The other part of that also came with that greatness in achievement piece, which is more the outward focus piece, which I think when people say, how are you going to be great? They're more sort of saying, what are you going to contribute? What are you going to achieve? And that in itself can be quite daunting if it's not specific. But then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually achieving greatness might be, mastering a skill or pushing boundaries or creating greater influence. It doesn't necessarily mean I want X promotion or I want said outcome, which then led me to start to think in terms of the next level of greatness. It starts to become in the field of purpose-driven greatness, which then starts to transcend beyond the individual and starts to create impact. So all of these aspects of greatness, I think, can work absolutely concurrently, or we might have a more of a focus on one versus the other. But to explore this really sort of became the muse for our upcoming webinar, which is going to be on the 19th of February at 1 o'clock in Australian Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to really delve into how to achieve greatness in 2025 and how to give the language and the framework and give some practical insights into which areas you might choose to focus on, and also how you might start to break this down into very micro decisions and change behaviors and change patterns, which then in turn give you the tools to achieve greatness. So if you're interested in pursuing greatness, whether that's personal, achievement, impact, I would love to see you on the 19th of February, and buckle up. We're back and back with vigor.